And if you ever why you ride the carousel, you do it for the stories you tell. And welcome to Shift+F1, a podcast about speedy race cars. I'm your host, Danny O'Dwyer this week. Drew Scanlon on assignment. Rob Zachney was also on assignment, which is why this is a day late, but not $1 short. Rob, you are on the best of assignments. You were actually at the Miami Grand Prix.
More than a few dollars short, Danny. It was, let me tell you, just existing at the Miami GP is just like, you are a slot machine for Formula One at that point.
Oh, no.
Money is just falling out of you. Especially because it is, I was warned about this by the people who gave me the tickets. They said, it is a grueling experience. I'm not sure I would recommend this to be your first F1 race in a long time, but sure, we can see how it goes.
I'm excited.
Danny, it did not go well in places.
Okay, well, I'm excited to hear all about it. We decided to push this a day late because obviously I wanted to make sure that you were fresh and recovered, perhaps is the word. By the way, that was a line from a Jimmy Buffett song. Do you know what song it was by any chance?
Give it to me one more time.
And if you ever wonder why we ride the carousel, you do it for the stories you can tell.
No, I don't know it.
It's called Stories We Could Tell.
I was really, the way you hit that, I was like,
Yeah.
this is gonna be the name of the song, isn't it? Name of the song isn't that verse. Yeah.
Hey, look, I don't know this song. I just Googled some Jimmy Buffett lyrics and that one seemed appropriate. A carousel. Round and round we go. Yes, we have a lot to talk about today. This, of course, was a sprint weekend, so we have plenty of races. And the action was packed, at least in parts of this weekend, for sure. It was a very fun experience watching along with the Shift+F1 Discord folks as well. So loads and loads and loads to jump into. But first of all, of course, want to give a massive shout out to all of our supporters over at patreon.com/shiftf1, where you get access to loads of bonus bits and bobs. We've been doing it for years. The most recent one being the F2 Primer, which you can go check out, which should give you everything you need to know about Formula 2, which in this current epoch where we've had this big old massive gap at the start of the season. I know lots of people are hungry for more racing. We are going to have to wait another week until Canada. It's not like they're coming back to back at the moment. We have a couple of little, week breaks between the races here. So perfect time to go check that out. And of course, massive thanks to all of our incredible title sponsors. Happy birthday, Kathleen! Happy birthday, Kathleen!
Happy birthday!
Happy birthday! Great name, Kathleen. It's my grandmother's name. Happy birthday. It's not her birthday. She died a number of years ago. Kathleen, on the other hand, living large and having her name read out at the top of a Formula One podcast. Happy birthday, Kathleen. Also, the military-industrial complex.
Yay.
Warizzle. Yay! Yay! How's everything going, guys? Thanks for ruining the season. Warizzle, R.I.P. Egberto and Igor Foreman. TVGP.tv, the video game podcast. Let's Margo Racing, Eaching Wells, Dr. V, Deange, It's a Me, Ferrario, Cryptocurrency, Mojo Nixon, Get Rich O'Die Ryan, Agave ATX, Cyphus Training, Turf SCS, Michael Maves, Cigarette Boats, TelemetryDeck.com, FTC, Bottas Not Last, Drew Stewart, Peak Super Clippy, Bailey Foot, Abraham Getchell, a romance novel called Blown Diffuser, Hashtag Bunny for Work, Snigs, Alex Goucher, Max Voltar Keyboards, Jeff Foster, Troy Stammer, William Romph, Lachlan the Maddened Man, Samurai Love Story, and Jason Kelly. Thank you all for your incredible support during these difficult F1 times where we are forced to wait for races, although we won't get into the politics of it. We're not suffering as much as most people. Unless you're Rob Zachney, apparently, who I can't wait to hear about your experience at Miami. Anything you want to talk about before? And we'll get into the meat and potatoes of it after we've talked about the races. But I'm sure your experience will come up. But what was it like getting to the circuit? What was that ordeal like?
Yeah, so somebody wrote in talking about how nice and fairly straightforward it is, and that's true up to a point. Really depends on what gate you're going to. So the thing I would say about this one, and apologies to people who just really want to hear about the race and don't want to hear the sort of travel diary of yours truly, but
I don't know if there's anyone who's in that position, but go on.
So the thing to bear in mind is if this is happening in the Hard Rock Stadium parking lot, that means the parking lot is full of racetrack.
Uh-oh.
And that is where all the logic of the stadium was designed to deposit people.
Good point.
And so I don't think I've ever been to a place, like if you're in the United States, in most places, like certainly in like northern cities, like from, Chicago, Milwaukee out to the Northeast. And then if you're on the West Coast, usually if you might have bad mass transit, old mass transit, but like there's still something. I don't think I've ever been to a place where like there's kind of literally nothing as far as mass transit goes. They had to sort of
that all costs too much tax dollars, Rob. We don't need any of that stuff.
Florida is it's a weird place. Weirder than I remembered it. You're passing a lot of like just tons of gun store signs, and then like just people stapling like divorce lawyer and then a phone number on telephone pole flyers. It's great. Like Florida lives up to a lot of stereotypes.
I'm even more excited for Grand Theft Auto 6 now that you say that.
But yeah, so the thing is, so what they have to do basically is jury rig a mass transit system to drop a bunch of people at a stadium that its only affordances for having lots of people show up at these huge parking lots that they no longer have access to. And so what they do is they have like rally points effectively for people to drive their cars to various parking lots. And then you take shuttles into the racetrack. And depending on where your seating is and then what gate you're going to, it can be a thing where you get dropped off and you're a 5-minute, 10-minute walk from your seats. Yeah. Or it can be a thing where you are like a 1-mile walk from your seats.
Oh, wow.
It can be pretty rough. And the thing to remember here is people, because the way an F1 weekend is structured, people are showing up at all times throughout the morning. But everyone is generally leaving at the same time.
Yeah.
And we'll come to that because I think it's decent to open on the Experience Friday, because this is where I would have to say, like, I was ready to burn that place down on Friday.
On Friday? Oh, really?
Yeah. So
was it well attended? Because obviously Friday was practice and sprint quali.
It was very sparsely attended early on for the support race stuff, but it was a decent number of people that were there for the F1 qualifying. But Friday was not the hottest day of the weekend, but it was still pretty grueling. And here is the thing I would say. My wife falls into the category of like intermittent wheelchair user. Just has some, oddly enough, it sounds like a lot of post-COVID stuff, but it wasn't post-COVID. The stuff like showed up independently of that. But what she's dealing with is something called dysautonomia, which is like basically the, in like car terms, the sort of throttle map for your circulatory system is just broken for her, where like every time you stand up, blood wants to fall because of gravity, but your circulatory system kicks on and makes sure that like you don't gray out because you just stood up. Hers doesn't do that super well. Right. So like a lot of standing around is really tough. And then another part of this is to help manage that. She doesn't thermoregulate quite as well as other people. Usually this is not like we did Disney, no problem. Usually this is not such a deal breaker. But Miami GP was definitely like we are complying with the ADA.
Right.
We are not
to the bare minimum of requirements.
Everything there is like, hey, we're just trying not to get sued. Okay. And as the day went on, the level of like irresponsibleness like the event organizers have about heat
right
is absurd.
To what end?
First of all,
there's no fans or
misting stations.
Yeah, I was about to say
like
misting
none
stuff,
of that.
Yeah.
Danny, the water stations, the water fountains where you can refill your water bottle, which they make you pour out on your way into the stadium, so you have to get not chilled. That water is like it's coming out of a hose on a summer day.
No, so it's like super. Oh wow!
The water was 85 degrees.
Oh my gosh!
You are drinking
like
pool water.
Yeah. Oh my god, that's
and
nuts.
then if you went to the first aid station, because like, again, my wife planned pretty well. She had like cooling vests, things like this. That stuff just need to be recharged. Like sit in an ice box for like 10 minutes.
Sure,
it's good to go. Well, they don't have refrigeration at the first aid station, Danny. Instead, all they have is a waiting room with no air conditioning.
Wow.
And then those little chemically activated break apart cold packs that they give you in the ER.
Yeah, they last for like 5 seconds.
Yes, and in the Miami heat, that's like even less. That is all that they had available there. We stuck our heads in, and it was like a disaster relief, like
is there a lot of people in there?
Tons
Just with
of
heat
people.
stroke or
and it was all ages too. Like there, because heat's a funny thing, right? Like
it was real hot, right?
Yeah, and Friday was. They were actually, it is a godsend they moved the race up, because the fact they were having the race roll off at 4, the hottest part of the day, is nuts, because we were coming in on Friday and it was like not even noon, and MK didn't hit her wall until like we were trying to leave. That's where things got bad for us. But we're looking around and you're seeing people, again, all ages, like girls younger than than MK, like kid, like girls in their 20s.
I'd be worried if I was bringing my
etc.
kid, for instance. I would have thought this was a fairly accessible F1, you know what I mean, because it's in a city. So like,
and in Florida, where you got a lot of like elderly, like no, none of that. It was
America's retirement home.
It was a complete like, hey, there's nothing. Drink your hot water. Sorry about the heat, but you can buy the $7 like tiny bottle of Aquafina, or you can drink the hot hose water.
Pool water.
Yeah. And then there was no place to cool off. None. There's like
wild.
no cooling stations. And so it was a little grim. And it got, when it came time to leave, that was where I hit my wall, because by that point, once the sun moved over the hood over the bleachers, it was just murder. Like, you're just sitting there. I was watching F1 qualifying, and I was like, it was spring qualifying, so it wasn't that long, and I was just like, please end. Just let me, just anything to get out of this. I can't take.
I'm starting to realize why this crowd gave you these free tickets, because they needed to keep the season. Well, they're not season tickets, but they're like, the first refusalness of it. But they had been before and realized how much
they had.
that
To
it
their
was
credit,
the Psalm.
They had done everything to say like, oh boy, this is not a good. Like, I mean, sure, but like, be careful.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they've been very honest about like, this is gonna be rough.
Okay.
But
Jeez.
The thing is, we had done just 2 years ago like Disney World, but Disney World doesn't. Disney World cares if people drop dead.
Oh, 100%.
And Disney World's
Mystic
a permanent
Station,
installation.
Yeah, it's like if you go to Universal or any of these places, they are just like on it. They need to make sure that, especially a lot of people with kids, a lot of people with mobility issues, like that is, they are on it. If not to to lick the boot of the mouse or anything, but if nothing else, that place with its own police and its own everything is able to kind of take care of things like that.
Even there, they kind of cheaped out in places too. Like they're at Disney World, they decided to mix the accessible seating vans into the general Uber pile. Because you can't have a vehicle being idle, so those things get booked by people. Yeah, so they just get booked, and so it's like, I need one with a scooter bay. No dice. It's off ferrying someone out of the park. But anyway, so when it came time to leave, we made it, about quarter mile away from our grandstand, and MK was like, man, I'm not doing it. I've hit my limit. Let's see if we can hitch a ride somewhere. If they have the guest experiences tent. No, there's tons of golf carts everywhere, full of Broward County sheriff's deputies, groundskeepers, etc. None of those are for taking people in anything but like life-threatening situations.
Yeah, should have got arrested. They have to give you water then.
And how I was feeling, I started to think about it, because so they had wheelchairs there, and they're like, well, you can wheel your wife out of here. You can stand behind her and push. The hospital wheelchairs. I'm sure you're a taller guy too. Just a horrible position to push because it's at like thigh height. But we're standing there. Crucially, she's not gotten her seat yet, and they're like, well, yeah, but you're leaving the stadium, and you're going to one of the parking lots. We don't have guest experiences tents over there, so how would we get our wheelchair back?
I was thinking about that, yeah.
And then they just stood there debating how they would recover this wheelchair.
These are the types of questions you ask before you set up an event.
Yeah. And eventually I'm just like, well, in the meantime, the whole reason we're here is my wife needs to sit down. So I'm just going to plunk her in one of these seats and we're going to figure this out. And so, it turned into like a 1.5-mile death march back across the campus.
Sorry to hear it, man. That's.
Oh, the real kicker was there's tons of places you have to cross the track with the bridges.
Oh, right.
They had
so you have to
wheelchair lift elevators that like you're standing there in the sun in a line of people, and it takes like 90 seconds for the elevator to go up and drop one person off, and then 90 seconds down.
Yeah.
And we got to the other side. The other elevator was broken.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
And then we got
the stairs we go.
She just had to, at that point she was like, fuck it, let's go. I'll just tough it out. It was bad. Ended up queuing in line for like an hour to get to the shuttle.
Oh, man.
To take you back to your car. So like once you're in, you're stuck.
Yeah.
But it was like levels of just really unforced errors of like just complete.
In a way, I'm not surprised that like a state like Florida with
no, and this is fundamentally it's being run by Stephen Ross, the Dolphins owner, who's kind of a piece of shit. But so like Friday, I was like ready. I was like, we made a huge mistake. Like maybe we should just like fly out of here because this is brutal and miserable. And then the next 2 days were really nice. Okay. And we can get to that because let's start with the Formula 2 stuff too. But like,
I want to get into the race stuff, but
I can't stress enough. Like, I would for what they're charging for the tickets. Like, if you are not willing to just be skinned alive and treated like cattle, I would maybe look at a different race.
Okay.
But
we'll round it out. We'll come back around at the end of the once we're done with some of this sort of stuff and see what your final thoughts are. But yes, like you said, there was only one practice session, and then we were into the Crypto.com Miami Grand Prix sprint qualifying. Sprint qualifying ended like this. Lando Norris on top. The McLarens coming back from the break with the new regs and feeling good about themselves. Kimi Antonelli in second, Oscar Piastri rounding out the top three. Then you had Charles Leclerc, Max Verstappen in a Red Bull that was looking pretty racy in fifth, George Russell in sixth, Lewis Hamilton in seventh, Franco Colapinto 8, Isaac Hadjar in 9th, Pierre Gasly 10th. Then you had the twin Audis of Gabriel Bortoleto and Nico Hulkenberg in 11th and 12th, respectively. Ollie Behrman in the Haas in 13th. Carlos Sainz in a decently looking Williams at that stage, 14th position. Liam Lawson in 15th. Esteban Ocon 16th. Perez in 17th. Alexander Albon 18th. Valtteri Bottas in 19th. Fernando Alonso 20th. Lance Stroll in 21st and Arvid Lindblad in 22nd. Something happened with Stroll, though. I can't remember. I don't have a notes for it here. He also had an issue in the race. Lance Stroll somewhat underrepresented on the television, though, so it was hard to kind of see what was going on.
That is a fun. So I'll just say this: Stroll and Alonso battling it out like mad. These are the things you get when you're at the race. There's things that you just never see. The Aston Martin boys are bored out of their minds.
Oh, really?
And so they are racing the doors off each other, lap after lap. I'm not sure because they didn't clash or anything. I'm not sure there's any animosity to it. It's just like they were going hard the entire weekend.
Right.
In like next to last place, and you never saw it, but it's kind of fun being in the stands watching them like, oh, they're drag racing down the start finish straight again. On TV you never caught a glimpse of them.
That's very cool.
Now I understand why Alonso's like, I drove my greatest race today and nobody will ever know.
Nobody will ever know.
I know, Fernando.
One person who didn't drive their race of their life was Nico Hülkenberg because he didn't make it around for the grid. His car just seemingly giving up the goose, exploding on the way to said grid. Did you see this at all? Where were you seated? Where were your seats?
So we were seated right by the start finish line.
Okay.
Little like checkerboard, like stripe across the track that we were right
Nice.
across from that. So we could see right into the McLaren and Mercedes garages, which was pretty cool. But the thing I will note, and I heard a lot of people talking about this, F1 has expanded all the premium like box seating options and has done that at the expense of sidelines. Our seats should have been able to see into the final corners of the racetrack.
Yes.
They built a covered buffet area for the box seats that completely delete that line of sight. So you just see cars like ripping out in front of you, and then they're gone down the track.
Can you see turn one at all?
Barely.
Like the entry.
It's not a great view. If I were doing this again, because on day 2, if we want to get to that, for what the sprint race was like, day 2, which was much nicer, it was breezier. Day 2 was like, okay, I'm starting to get back on side with this, but part of that magical process was just strolling into a seating section you don't have tickets for. I went down to turn 1.
Nice.
For the Formula 2 sprint. And if I were doing this again, I would fight hard to get seats somewhere in the turn 1 grandstands, because there you see a decent portion of the straight. You also see the deceleration and the fight through those chicanes coming through. That has a great sight line, tons of action happening there. The cars are at the most impressive, like kind of decelerating. And being there live, like Formula 2 is a great show. Yeah. Like if they hadn't had the support races, I would not have enjoyed this weekend nearly as much.
Oh, right. And that's where a lot of the action happened at the start of the sprint as well. So let's get into it. Sprint starts, bad start for Kimi Antonelli again. Unfortunately, his starts have become a bit of a storyline this year after qualifying obviously so well. Norris is then gets ahead of him, so it's Norris, Piastri, Leclerc, and then Antonelli gets past Russell into 4th. In and around there. Max and Lewis end up banging wheels here, though. Another one of these, Max attempting to do a sort of a over-enthusiastic braking zone lunge, perhaps, into those first set of corners, and forces Lewis. Is that the part where he forces Lewis off the track, or is that in the main race? I think that's in the main race.
So it's the main race, yeah.
But they had a little tap there anyway. What did you make of the start?
It was the most exciting part of the sprint. The sprint, unfortunately, settled into a processional really fast. And you saw that in Formula 2 as well. I feel like they've gotten even more risk averse with the sprints than they were when the sprints were first introduced, because people just start falling into gaps and they do not press anything. Formula 2, they only really battled for like the last lap. And I'm not sure they ever really did start gunning for each other hard in the Formula 1 sprint at all. Like everyone, I think, was already eyes on qualifying, just trying to avoid any major incidents. So like it was cool seeing them. It was cool seeing them go around. But this is the funny thing. The energy level ramps up through the weekend. Like everything feels like, even though the racing on Saturday, it's an F1 race, it does not have the same intensity, and that feels like it extends to just the way the drivers are driving the cars. It feels like the sprint happens at like 9/10, and then the race you're like, oh, there's 10/10.
Right. Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, there was a big split, I think, obviously between these, but I think people have started to kind of blame people. From what I was seeing on Discord and stuff like that, and social media, people seem to understand that like the sprint race is not necessarily a great sort of a divination for what's going to happen in the main race. It's just the nature of the sprint race. So like, as you said, yeah, notes wise, this isn't the most busy thing in the world. I did watch it live as well. But,
and who did push it was Kimi, and he got punished for that.
Yeah, exactly.
It was really striking the degree to which a lot of other drivers, particularly Russell, just sort of fell back. And we can argue to what degree Russell just doesn't have pace in him, but it was striking the gap that opened up between them. And then Kimi ends up getting the penalty at the end for track limits, because without him having any dramatic incidents during that sprint race, he ran afoul of the stewards and dropped 2 positions.
Lap 3, Perez gets past Lawson into 15th. A couple of laps later, Russell gets past Kimi Antonelli into the final section. That overtaking spot, as I said last week, was very I don't know, it's probably the most overtakes were happening in that area, but also turn 1 there was a decent amount happening. Antonelli though does get past Russell a lap later on lap 8. Verstappen also gets past Hamilton into 6th, but he went wide on the track. This is where he did the braking, the hard braking, and obviously attempted to make the cut in, but while doing so, he forced Hamilton off the track, which is fine as long as Verstappen stayed on the track, but he didn't. All 4 wheels came off the track, so he ended up giving that place back after a heads up from GP. Lap 10, Verstappen though gets past Hamilton in the same spot. Hamilton not really fighting it all that hard. It was sort of seemed like it was coming. That Red Bull was looking racy though this weekend. I feel like perhaps the results have not been have sort of shadowed that fact a little bit, especially in the main race. Lap 17, Isaac Hodger gets past Franco Colapinto. Wonderful overtake early in the lap. Really interesting part of the track to overtake on. Just sort of threw it around the outside. It was like something from the F1 movie. So really great. It was my overtake of the weekend, I think. Lap 18, Leclerc goes wide trying to catch up to Piastri for second place. He was sort of gobbling him up near the end of the sprint race. Perhaps something that might happen again in the race. Him trying to stretch himself to get that second place, but he's not able to do it. Lando Norris has a fairly easy run around the track and comes home in first position. For the rest of the points-paying positions, we have Oscar Piastri in second, Chuck Leclerc in third, George Russell fourth, Max Verstappen fifth, Kimi Antonelli in sixth, because he ends up taking a 5-second penalty for repeated track limit violations. He was warned by his engineer over the radio, but was unable to pull it in and ended up dropping back down behind Russell and Verstappen. Lewis Hamilton in 7th and Pierre Gasly picking up that final point for the Alpines. After that, we had Hadjar in 9th position. Goose egg for him, though. Franco Colapinto in 10th, then Esteban Ocon and Ollie Berman in 11th and 12th. Carlos Sainz ending 1 position up in 13th. Liam Lawson 14th. Fernando Alonso 15th. Sergio Perez 16th. Lance Stroll 17th. Alexander Albon not having a great weekend in 18th position in second Williams. Valtteri Bottas in 19th is the final car that finished. Nico Hulkenberg obviously never made it to the start. Arvid Lindblad also didn't either. Do you know what happened with Lindblad? There's so many cars now that I just sometimes people don't start and I don't even bloody notice. And then Bortoleto got disqualified, but I can't remember what that was for either. Who knows? I'm trying to look it up.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember why the
Bortoleto. What happened to my boy?
Oh yeah,
post-race inspection.
Yep.
Engine intake pressure exceeded the maximum 4.8 bar limit. Well, there you go. That's why I didn't remember, because it was after the
cheating bastard.
The race, and it was some sort of technical nonsense. Or as Rob said, he was a cheating bastard. So that was the sprint. That was the Saturday morning.
Yeah.
What was your experience then in that afternoon? Like, what was the sprint race? What was it like gearing up for qualifying? You're saying it was sort of the heat was turning up, obviously, with in terms of the weather, but also in terms of the excitement around the stadium.
Yeah, I would say each day, like, you can sort of sense the stakes getting higher. The
prices, you mean the prices of the stakes getting higher.
There's that, but like it is definitely you have the crowd intensity amping up, more people are showing up, but then you also have the teams are clearly so much more serious about qualifying than they are about shootout qualifying or sprint qualifying, and I would argue that they're more serious about it than they are about the sprint. The sprint felt like a a practice session for points is how a lot of it felt. But then the qualifying, you're starting to get like teams a lot more dialed in. They're doing final changes on the setups, and then also the conditions change enormously between those sessions. In the morning, before the heat has built up, it's still pretty intense, but you got breeze, cloud cover. Qualifying at 4, the track is blisteringly hot, and so I feel like they were so far outside the normal tolerances for the tires that there was a lot of confusion about like what is going to happen with race strategy. And by that point, also everyone was talking about this might also be a wet race. So that was like looming over this as well, where you were dealing with just like brutal conditions, and then the knowledge those conditions might dissipate entirely before the race the next day.
Yeah, exactly. We do eventually get news that the race has been pulled back 3 hours. Is that what it was?
Pushed forward, yeah.
Push forward.
Yes, it was going to go off at 4, which is when all the major F1 stuff had happened across the weekend. This time they moved it to 1 p.m.
Okay.
And then they moved everything up accordingly. So they really jammed things forward, and I think saved the race and also made it a much nicer day.
Yes. Was that a reaction to the possible chance of rain, or was this in reaction to the heat issues?
Oh, they didn't seem to give a shit about the heat. It was entirely the rain. And it's funny because we've seen F1 is resistant to changing their schedule. They will
100%.
They will play chicken with the weather
do just about anything. Yeah.
But this time they didn't. My friend I was with, his theory was because they've already lost 2 races in a row, they could not afford a Spa rain out situation.
Yeah.
And so fair. And especially the last time a US audience felt screwed, they started pelting the track with garbage at Indy. So I think they were sort of they're backed into doing the prudent thing there. But the forecast was dire. Like what they were forecasting it wasn't just the rain, which was going to be a deal breaker enough. It was South Florida lightning storms, thunderstorms. So, there are rules where anything within like 8 miles of a work site that's outside, if there's lightning strike, you have to issue shelter orders. Yeah. And so
even in Florida.
Yeah. And so if they ran into storms, they were going to have to basically shut down the track for extended periods. And that takes like an hour to clear each time. Yeah. So they had to try to find the gap. And fortunately they did. We'll get into it, but the rain that was dreaded never really materialized.
Yeah, there's also issues with the helicopters as well. If they can't fly those, then they can't race. And I know there's some issues with that when it comes to lightning storms as well. Yes, but shout out to everyone on the Discord. A couple of people on the Discord spam me and let me know that the race time had changed, because I did not realize. I'm sure there was lots of people caught out with that one, because it was kind of a last minute shuffle around. The qualifying, though, went ahead, and we had a bit of a shuffle around here as well. Lando Norris is not on the top step here. It's actually Antonio? It's actually...
Antonio Giovinazzi. He's appeared, folks.
Andrea Kimi Antonelli. Sorry, Antonio. Oh, my God. Up here, actually, let me make sure I'm getting the qualifying and not the grid here, just so in case there's a little bit of a difference, because, well, no, actually, Hadjar still down there. Okay. Kimi Antonelli, Max Verstappen in second, Charles Leclerc gonna start in third, then Lando Norris in fourth, George Russell fifth, Lewis Hamilton sixth, Oscar Piastri seventh, Franco Colapinto 8th, Pierre Gasly 9th, Nico Hulkenberg in 10th position, trying to make up for lost time. Liam Lawson 11th, Ollie Behrman 12th, Carlos Sainz 13th, Esteban Ocon 14th, Alexander Albon 15th, Arvid Lindblad 16th, the twin Aston Martins of Alonso and Stroll in 17th and 18th, the twin Cadillacs of Valtteri Bottas and Perez rounding up the top 20. And then Gabriel Bortoleto in 21st, with Isaac Hadjar disqualified post qualifying for an engine infringement. He will start from the pit.
Well, his weekend can only get better from here.
That's the thing. Like, it was just it went from bad to worse for poor Isaac Hajar.
We should take a break before we continue with the show.
We should. I forgot about breaks. I don't host this podcast. Usually I'm here. I don't know what my role is. I'm sort of like mild comic relief and
well, I'm badly my brain is still pudding from the race. So the sunburn got me. Okay. Did you know that?
Oh, did you get sunburned? You don't look sunburned.
I was pretty good. I think it's faded, but my hairline got badly sunburned because putting like lotion in your hair feels like the worst thing in history. Yeah, so I stupidly didn't do that.
Feels like a crime.
But yeah, so I did get a little bit burned. But yeah, I'm I still got a little bit of that heat stroke that I'm dealing with.
Here's the question: do we put in a break now, or did I already do a break? Did I just stick a break in somewhere else? Sometimes I do that. If we
I think we still take a break so I can get more coffee.
Okay,
that'll take me 5 seconds.
Sorry, we'll take a break. Wink, 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 wink. Yeah. Got it. Okay, we'll be back just after this with the Miami Grand Prix. Okay, time for the race. We've done the grid. Time to start it. But let's talk about rain first of all. It's a specter that looms over this race, but obviously doesn't really make much of a difference in the race itself. What was your feeling in the stands? Were people out there in their jackets? Were there brollies around?
It is such a weird. So this is the thing where like South Floridians just have a different set of expectations around this stuff.
Okay.
When I woke up, it was thunder, lightning, torrential downpour.
Oh, really?
And
yeah,
of course
it was.
There's no way this race is happening.
Yeah,
like zero chance. The radar was bad. It was really intense outside, and it was really doubtful they would get the Formula 2 race off. Formula 1 seemed like they're going to run into more storms. And the thing about it is like the fronts sort of form unexpectedly, so it kind of felt like we've already sort of lost the window if there ever was one. But they got very, very lucky. Once that storm blew itself out, it blew out just a little bit before like Formula 2 was heading to the grid. And then Formula 2 pumped the track dry basically.
Right. Okay.
They ran wets through that race. Formula 2 not having inters. Which made for a great race, by the way. Formula 2 was incredible.
I haven't watched any of the F2 stuff, so I'm gonna do that after this.
Cannot stress enough. And look, I hate that I'm giving ammo to some people that like I don't necessarily agree with on a lot of things.
Those cars.
The Formula 2 cars sound fucking great.
Oh man.
And at a certain point, MK also turned to me during the Porsche Carrera Cup race, and she was like, "I think the Porsches might sound better than the Formula 1 car." Like,
how did you have fun? When was your last race? Like,
oh god, we're talking V8s.
Okay. Sorry.
Yeah. So I never heard the turbo hybrids, the V6 turbo hybrids in anger in the flesh before in my life, but. They don't sound bad. I also think it is overstated the degree to which there's no spectacle. I think some of the people saying that may have hearing damage, just given the age group that you tend to hear this the most from.
But you can't hear them anymore. What did you say?
Yeah, but there is an undeniable thing of like the Formula 2s sound incredible, especially on the downshift, and sitting there at turn 1. Seeing the gouts of flame jetting from the exhaust pipe on the downshift is just incredible. Like they look fantastic, and those guys go for it. And the race in the wet was pretty spectacular. Action all throughout. Everyone leaving it on the field for as many yellows as they had, because as you might imagine with those conditions, yellows all the time. It was still a pretty tremendous race, and I think somewhere Dino Bogdanovich was like, he reminded me of Kamui Kobayashi.
Okay, yeah.
Just the nobody can pass here.
Yeah.
Let me just see about that.
Okay.
He was going outside turn 1 consistently and like fishtailing out of there and just getting past people right and left, fighting for the lead of this race. It was awesome stuff. The Formula 2 race, the feature race Formula 2 was bar none the best race of the weekend.
Okay.
I think this is where it locked in for me, where these support races are critical, because especially in these like venues that aren't like really nice to be at, if this whole weekend, what I'd seen was just the Formula 1 stuff and like not even a sprint race, but just like practice quality, like I think I would have felt much more negative about it. Right. But what the sprint format weekend with a Formula 2 race and support gives you is just greater odds of people having like an awesome I'm glad I came out here experience, and maybe realize like that is what the promoters are fighting for. I think not the like make the ticket seem more valuable by having some stuff to come to watch. It is to lower the odds of you feeling like you wasted your ticket because like nothing happened. Well, there were like 5 different chances for things to happen.
It's a good time to talk about that first turn and the overtaking, because obviously the torque on these F1 cars comes into it did in the sprint, and it definitely does here in the race when it comes into exiting that first turn. So we start dry. Kimi Antonelli, will he have a bad start? He will. Russell also has a bad start, not as bad though. Kimi has a bad start, and it's sort of everyone sort of waterfalls from there. Leclerc immediately gets ahead. The Ferraris with their wonderful starts, once again, doing well. Hamilton does too, but he gets checked up a little bit by everyone who's in front of him. Max ends up blocking, sort of defending inside for Lando, who also had a good start, and he breaks hard into turn 1. So does Kimi Antonelli, trying to make up for lost ground there. Both of them end up locking up and sort of going wide while Leclerc dives down the inside. But Max has a great exit despite his sort of shallow entry into that first turn. But like I said, these cars are twitchy. They've a lot of torque coming through them when you hit that, when you bring them, especially at the start of a race with the wheels, a smaller wheelbase as well, not helping. And Max ends up spinning on that exit of turn 2. Did you couldn't see this probably?
No, they're cut off by the grandstand when they make that right turn, so I couldn't see it. But you see it on the Jumbotron. Thing I'll say is, I worried like, well, you can't see as much as on TV. Don't worry, you're basically watching the race on TV. Okay. The Jumbotrons and sound system like have you covered. If anything, the sound system's too loud. They've got it calibrated to like get sound up to the nosebleeds.
Yes, of course.
I was sitting there being like, okay, this is like deafening and painful.
Well, don't worry, because in a couple of years you'll be able to complain about the engines not being loud.
The show's not what it was. But yeah, but Max, like
you'd commentary as well, did you?
Yeah, well, we got you can hear it on the track, but we got the
headphones,
American Express like booth, like headphones with a little radio.
Take that, crypto.com.
Yeah, we're talking to a real financial services company here. But it sounded great. It blocked out some of the worst of the noise, and it was a really nice experience. I listened with one earbud like loose, so that I could hear the live like the engines, and then keep the commentary at the right volume. But Max, that spin, he recovers it beautifully. It looks like stunt driving. And Brundle, when I watched it on the track, Brundle couldn't get over it. Brundle was like, "This is beautiful." He's like, "This is absolutely brilliant driving." Because I'm not sure how many drivers could have caught it. He didn't lose that much pace. He lost a bunch of positions because everyone was like gathered together and going around him. But if this had happened in the middle of the race, I'm not sure he loses a position. He gathers it up so fast.
And lots of conversations, of course, again, about did he mean it or not. Max has done this enough times that we know he means it. And Jolyon Palmer, that the recovery wasn't just luck, I guess. Jolyon Palmer's breakdown for the race, he does a great one of that whole starting incident.
I didn't see he covered this.
Yeah, so he covers Max's spin too. He actually goes through it and goes, okay, this is where he puts the brakes on. This is where he released the brakes. Like, this is what he was trying to do. You can immediately see him put it in opposite lock. Release the throttle, and then like when he comes back around, brakes on, hands off the wheel, like, or reset the wheel and then go again. Like he's so just fast. He's just really good at it. And honestly, it's because the worst thing that can happen is I mean, it's worse if it happens at race pace somewhere, but obviously at the start of a race, a car spinning in the front with 24 cars on the grid is not ideal. But
well, also everyone the other drivers. Everyone gets around him. Like people react beautifully to that. And Max is on the radio real quick, immediately apologizing to the team, not being peevish at anyone. It's just he put it totally on his shoulders. Which usually there's no complaint about. He will, but he totally took that one on the chin. But yeah, he's freakishly good at this. He has been since. Do you ever watch his Interlagos test session footage?
Mm-mm.
That's where like the legend of Max Verstappen, people started to realize like this guy's something. It was a wet track, his first time in a Formula 1 car.
Okay.
And he started drifting the car through like sector 2 and recovering it. And like within a few laps, he had the ability to basically like handle that thing like a rally driver.
All right.
And just sort of like gain pace sliding through these corners.
Go-karts,
and it was like
baby.
he has just like next level touch.
They're just big go-karts if you've got the brain for it. Like you said, nobody hits him, but a couple of people have to check up. First of these is Lewis Hamilton, who is right behind him and has to check up and loses a lot of places, or a couple of places as a result. Russell and Colapinto get past him. Norris also had a great exit out of, he had a great start. He is sort of watching Kimi coming back onto the track because Kimi actually overshot that first turn. But as he sees Verstappen spinning in front of him, he catches that and he releases off the throttle a good bit as he's exiting turn one, anticipating that Verstappen might end up in front of him. Obviously, Verstappen doesn't, so Norris then gets back on the gas. But there's a decent chance that Norris, if he had retained his speed exiting turn one, might have pipped Kimi onto the next corner because Kimi was obviously entering the track again with slower speed. So that's how we end up there. But we do have a bit more of argy-bargy. Hamilton and Colapinto get into it a little bit. Verstappen and Lawson also tap each other. Verstappen sort of fighting to get the positions back again, does the sort of aggressive overtake, push the car out onto the track thing he does. I don't think there's anything wrong about how he does it here, but he doesn't have a great turn in and ends up clipping Lawson. Verstappen pushing him wide in that instance. At this stage then, so we have a bit of a mixed grid, but also we don't know what these cars are going to be like at race pace. We've already seen a pretty decent shift in qualifying performance by a lot of these teams as well. The McLarens are obviously in the mix and leading now at this stage, but Kimi Antonelli's also had a great pace this weekend and qualified first. So sort of watching him, like I said, Verstappen is now out of position, you would say, given the pace of the Red Bull throughout the race weekend. I think they've come back after the break with some meaningful changes that have clearly made a difference here. They're definitely back in the hunt a little bit. So on lap 2, we have Verstappen past Albon with a very aggressive braking overtake again, forcing Albon wide. Lap 3, Russell gets past Piastri into 4th position. So Russell, again, not having a great weekend up until this point and trying to make up for a poor get off the line as well here.
Do we want to talk about that? Because I feel like it's the referendum on Russell has started.
The Russell versus Kimi thing, or just
just Russell as a driver. Just one thing I notice is like there is a level of animus for George Russell that's really startling among F1 fandom. That's how it feels to me. Like just like watching like people online, the people show up in mentions and things like that. People like watching Russell lose. Yeah, and I think I understand to some extent. We've talked about like he gives this very like aristocratic, apple polishing, boarding school prick type character in some ways, and then sometimes the ways in which he's been nice have felt like artificial, too studied. Right? The
crash
at
Silverstone. Yeah. If he hadn't gotten out of the car, he could have also kept racing.
But if we don't. At the same time, like a lot of these guys are unlikable and weird in their respective ways, right? Like Lando Norris has like the leadership qualities of a brick. He's like they're all kind of odd ducks, but the dislike for Russell, I think, is probably exaggerated a little bit. How people are reacting to Antonelli, like frankly, just blowing the doors off him here, and. I guess for me, it's like, I mean, I've seen enough. It seems very unlikely that Antonelli is not the faster driver in this car. It certainly seems like that is kind of asked and answered. But there's other things I did notice this weekend, and I think it goes to Russell's path to get here. I have some sympathy for him because he was the best driver of his generation coming up. And he got in F1 very fast, but he got stuck at Williams for arguably his best years. And his benchmarks were Nicholas Latifi, who we can all agree below replacement caliber driver, and Robert Kubica, who effectively is driving on one arm, and Williams at that time could not give him an accessible steering wheel until like literally his last race.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like he needs a steering wheel with all the controls over on the side that he still has like forearm muscles. And he didn't have that, so he just had to like brute force it during his time at Williams. So he wasn't a good benchmark. The one time Russell gets in Hamilton's car, remember at Secure, he's on track to win that race easily, and Mercedes blows it with a pit stop mistake.
Not his fault. Yeah.
When he finally gets the shot at Mercedes sucks.
Yeah.
He handles business with Hamilton, like rinses him out of the team, but the car, it's meaningless. The car is bad. His greatest drive, probably Spa, disqualified because the car couldn't make weight without the extra rubber. So this is a guy who, like, misfortunes, like timing and then things on the Mercedes side have just not broken his way. And now he's got his big opportunity, but he's a veteran now.
Yeah.
And it is so clear that he is Fernando Alonso to Antonelli's Hamilton in this arrangement, where, like, this is a guy that the team is bought in on. And a guy who skipped all parts of the line because Toto Wolff views him as a family member practically and wanted to get his very own Max Verstappen to show he could do it too. And so, like, the kid's kind of promoted into an ideal situation without dealing with... I don't think driving at Williams in those years that Russell was there was probably good for your development as a driver.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, I don't think that's ideal. But here's the other thing: it is 100% certain now. This is Antonelli's team. He is the future. Like, Wolff is completely bought in on this guy. And yeah, it's Mercedes is like, we drive as a team. We don't have a favorite driver. But here's a question for you, Danny. Who is Russell's engineer? Can you name him?
No,
but you can name Kimmy's.
In fairness, I can't name a lot of the engineers, but yeah, you're right. Kimmy.
But one of these guys has been the voice in the ear for like 5-6 world championships. And
I think, just speaking on the popularity thing, I will say, and I like Russell. I think I think similar to like other I think a lot of drivers like this. I think Verstappen is like this as well. Like, the Verstappen who's on team radio is way more tetchy. Hamilton is too. Hamilton is way more dour on team radio than he is in real life. And Russell is whiny, I think, which I think is a very particular, like when the Russell Bottas stuff was happening, like people were not siding with Russell because he's quite whiny in that respect. The thing is, I like George Russell and I'd like to see him do well. But that said, when he was winning races this year, when he was doing well in the first couple of races here, and in a decent car finally in 2026, I found it quite boring when he did well. Like, and I don't have that feeling like when Lando was rushing through and like possibly fighting for a championship. To me, it felt, oh wow, great! Like, he's been in the sport for years. He deserves it. Russell, arguably on paper, is in the exact same situation, but emotionally, I have a very different reaction. I find it very boring. But when you look at Kimi winning races, it's like this child. Like, he looks like a child.
And that part,
so it's more exciting
about
or something,
Everyone loves the story. Like, look at the little kid doing all this stuff.
And he's very
kind
sweet.
Of an Air Bud situation. He seems like a total sweetheart.
He's a little baby. Look at him, little baby.
I think that also makes it weirder, though. Imagine, like, your championship rival is a 17-year-old who's a sweet little kid.
Is he 17?
So, like, yeah. That's like, so
Sorry,
what do you like? You
18,
can't even
19.
really get into it with this guy in the same way you do with a normal teammate because he's a little baby.
Yeah.
And so I think right now we all find it very cute and sweet, but also there's a part of me that's like, I don't know. I always sort of feel like across all sports they're rushing kids like to the front of the line too fast, and I think like there's layers to which that doesn't feel great. But this also just kind of feels like, the boss sort of picked this kid to be his chosen champion, and he's been rushed into this position, and now it's like, we're all going to find the story heartwarming because the alternative is like, it kind of just depends. Can you get the benevolent of attention of a powerful like team principle.
Hey, look, if putting Russell and Williams for a couple of years didn't benefit him, if that's what you're saying, maybe this is the alternative, is that you get them in faster, you know? But anyway,
Right,
we should get back to the race.
Well, the last thing I'll say about Russell, though, to that, because it's germane to the race, your point about him being boring, if I have to say, like, there's a fatal flaw with him, it is that everything about him suggests he's too calculating. And it may work out for him this season. That in the end, on a long enough timeline, things will break his way. He'll get his races in. He'll be consistent, and Kimi will, like Piastri last year, will not be able to be as consistent across the greatest part of a season. However, there are times you just have to be able to get stuck in and take the risk. And I think sometimes George drives like he is optimizing the race and playing the percentages more than just like inhabiting the cockpit and saying like, hell with it, I have to do it right now, it's all on me. Everything for him feels a little bit like I'm going to take the percentage shot. I'm not going to nothing risked, minimize risk. And I think that makes for an uninspiring champion contender.
Yeah, it's the Alain Prost thing again, maybe, you know. Yeah, but I think I definitely think there's something there. We should get some emails in about this as well. We'll think about Russell. Shift+F1 podcast@gmail.com or f1.cool/emails. So lap 4, Kimi gets past Charles Leclerc at that penultimate corner, but on the next lap, Leclerc gets past Kimi in the exact same spot. Lap 6, Hadjar though his weekend goes from bad to worse. He licks the inside of one of the turns and clips the wall and ends up binning the car as it sort of careers out of control, having struck that apex before the safety car is called though, which is almost immediately going to happen if not a red flag to fix the barriers. And Norris gets past Antonelli and I guess slips into second position, I guess it is at that stage. But at the same time, another incident has happened. Gasly is in the wall. What did you make of this? I mean, it was Lawson dives down the inside and just like scoops him up. And once again, the halo coming into, save the day, because Gasly bounces on his head and ends up on his side essentially.
I do want to, it's kind of weird when Brundle's take on it was that with the tires being this grippy, also it makes it easier for the cars to launch each other that way. But I think I saw that like Lawson's car had also was in mechanical distress. You can hear the downshifts are not working right.
Yeah,
as he hits that corner. So it looked like classic Lawson bullshit where, you overcooked it and just took someone out, and that is how he is. But it does seem like there were extenuating circumstances here where he had sort of lost the car as he was going in there. And
do we think that's because of the incident with Verstappen on that first lap? Because they did have a bit of a coming together. I guess
these
that's 5 laps
things are so
earlier.
Complicated, but I don't know. Like issues with the transmission and the powertrain can wear in. Like these things show up at odd places.
Right.
It happens. They're complicated cars, and these systems there's lots of points of failure. So it looked really scary, and it certainly looked like Lawson had done something classically out of pocket for him. But in the end, it just became kind of a racing incident, and a very dramatic one.
We have a safety car. A couple of people come in for, not many people come in for.
Well, because Hadjar's out at the same moment, right? You covered that?
Yes, Hadjar's gone. Yeah. So they're scooping him out of there. Verstappen comes in to pit on hards though, attempting to do some sort of alternative strategy for people, perhaps anticipating rain later on. We'll wait and see. But the pit window's not really open yet. It does come into play pretty soon. Lap 12, safety car comes in. Piastri pips Russell immediately on the restart. Again, Russell having trouble with the restarts, but perhaps that is just less of a starting gun issue and more of Piastri just being on his tail there. Norris is also just hunting Charles Leclerc at the start of this race, and he gets past him into first position on lap 13. Then Antonelli gets past Leclerc at turn 11 and gets into second place there. Verstappen is behind Alex Albon again, lap 17. He attempts to get past Albon on that penultimate corner, but he can't quite do it, but he manages to stick it on the entrance into turn 1, which must have been fun to watch from your perspective. Lap 21, Verstappen continues to roll up through the crowd on his fresh set of tires. He gets past Colapinto. Then Russell gets into the pits from third to start the sort of the chain of events of pits that we're going to see here. He's fighting Leclerc for position at this stage, and the next lap Leclerc comes in, has a rotten pit stop, 3.7 seconds, comes out behind Russell in the entrance to turn 2. So obviously that hasn't worked out for them. Verstappen then gets past Hamilton into 4th position. Kimi Pitts has a great pit stop, 2.2 seconds. Hamilton comes in on lap 28. Antonelli gets past Norris on that fresh set. Antonelli then passed Verstappen. Sorry, Norris is pitted as well, obviously. Lap 29, Antonelli gets past Verstappen. Then Norris gets past Verstappen. They have a bit of a swap and back and forth as they're, that section from the penultimate corner to the first corner is where a lot of these battles are happening, as sort of suggested last week. Verstappen's tires look like they're already having a little bit of trouble, so that strategy may not have worked out. Lap 31, Leclerc gets past Russell into 5th, and this is when the race sort of settles into the boring window, and kind of looks like it's over as a competitive. On the Discord, the mods throw up a vote about 10 laps from the end. Which then gets spit out to everyone else, and you vote, how should you watch this race? Should you watch the full race? Should you watch the 30-minute highlights, or should you just watch the quick highlights? And at this stage, a lot of people were probably thinking 30-minute highlights. But the end of the race ends up being a good bit better, though.
Well, yeah, the thing to bear in mind is the teams came into the race thinking there would be weather, and so that sort of put some uncertainty over the first pit stops. Yes. Mercedes called the race beautifully from the pit stop standpoint, and the crews did well. Ferrari had an issue on each of their pit stops. Both horrible pit stops. I had a good view of them. You could see on, I think it was Hamilton's, the right rear struggles to get on. And with Leclerc, I think it was the front left with Hamilton it was the left rear, and I think with Charles it was the right front. But like uneven pit stops, and then Norris, he certainly came out of this feeling like the team had botched it, that letting Antonelli undercut them. That was their race. That was they weren't going to be able to do this on track. Like once they lost it in the pits, that it was pretty much over. Which certainly seems to suggest that the match between those two cars and with the things they've done with the regs, still, if you've got that clean air and a decent, like even if you're very evenly matched in terms of pace, the person with the clean air is probably going to run away with this. Also, at some point this weekend, I started to feel like maybe it's confirmation bias, but it did feel like with all the changes they made to some of the regulations, they had killed off some of the dynamism of the overtaking that we saw in China. Yeah. And
it's hard to tell, right? Because it's a different track and it's a technically a street circuit and all that. But we did seem to have less of that sort of seesawing that we had in previous races. So we'll have to wait and see. Canada, I think, will be a good share for this a week after next. The battle, like you said up front, we have Kimi up there with Lando capturing him. And then the rest of them are kind of behind. Like, I think Piastri is a decent 20, 30 seconds behind them, even at this stage. No, maybe not at this stage, but certainly in the last window of the race. But the battle between sort of Piastri, Russell, Verstappen, Leclerc is sort of what we're looking at here. So lap 36, Piastri gets past Russell into 5th position. Lap 47, Leclerc gets past Verstappen into 3rd. Then Piastri also catches Verstappen on lap 49, a couple of laps later, and grabs 4th position. But it all comes down to sort of like the last couple of laps. Again, listening to this race back, sort of it's difficult, or it's easy to forget that the specter of rain was sort of always there. We were listening to team radios a lot on the broadcast, saying, some people saying rain's definitely coming in 10 laps, some people saying we don't think it's coming. So it was always like, sort of possibly there. It was like Chekhov's rain cloud or something, Well, not a great metaphor there, but it was which added an element of excitement to the whole thing, because you were sort of anticipating that perhaps there would be rain. It never really materialized. There's a couple of people are like, are those raindrops on Russell's camera, for a second and things like that. But anyway, it all did culminate back into these last couple of laps where we have some great fighting for those last positions. Leclerc trying on lap 57, Leclerc trying on Max Verstappen. Russell gets past Verstappen and into 5th position at this stage. Leclerc ends up spinning, trying to catch up here. Spins and actually hits the wall. It looks like he's recovered it, because by the time we come back to him, he's still driving. But it looks like he's recovered it here on the penultimate lap. But he did actually hit the wall, and he hit the wall pretty hard, to the point where I think he couldn't turn right very well.
Looks deceptive, because at first I was like, wow, he really caught that, and the car looks like basically okay. No, one of the wheels, like the toe link or something, was just like smoked, because the wheel is like flopping around like a bad shopping cart wheel on that left side, and so it wasn't responding to turns in one direction effectively. Right. So that meant that Russell now was coming up behind him like a missile.
Yes,
knowing
and he's just overtaken Verstappen. Russell has, so he's coming up behind trying to catch up to
and this saves Russell's weekend, right? Like if if he the overtake on Max was important, and then if this doesn't happen to Charles, the amount of points that he loses to Kimi this race is devastating. It's basically a full race down. But this salvages it a little bit through his misfortune. It's exciting. They all converge there at the hairpin at turn 17.
Yes.
And Russell starts to cut in, realizes I think Leclerc can't make the turn,
yes,
and has to bail out of his chosen line. And Max is there trying to get under it at the same time. It was really exciting, and the passes, the Max overtake was completed as he was passing in front of where we were seated.
I was about to say, if you were there, then you would have seen it, because it was right really before the line. Yeah. Like you said, Russell gets past Leclerc, and Verstappen ends up chasing Leclerc down on as they approach the line. As it happens, he does it quite a little bit before the line, right in front of Rob and his crew. And things went from bad to worse for Leclerc, because Leclerc ends up getting a 20-second time penalty after the race. This is the line I've pulled from the FIA. Given the problem, he was forced to cut chicanes. This is because he can't turn the car. He was forced to cut chicanes on the way to the checker flag. We determined that the fact that he had to cut the chicanes leaving the track meant that he gained a lasting advantage by leaving the track in that manner. So he ends up getting a 20-second penalty added to that, which drops him behind his teammate Lewis Hamilton, and
who also had a screwed up car with 15 points of downforce lost because of the Colapinto tag.
Yes, exactly. And Franco Colapinto himself in 7th, so Charles ends up in 8th.
Oh, the Colapinto army is real, by the way.
Oh, really?
Yeah, no, it is. You recognize a lot of them because they're wearing Argentine football kit.
Okay, and, yes. Hey, it's a great strip. The blue and white. Yeah.
Or they're just carrying flags, but no, a ton of them are also incognito, and you're like, I didn't realize these were Colapinto fans until he drives past, and then suddenly the entire section loses his mind.
Well, Charles wasn't the only person to get a penalty. Max Verstappen also did. This was a weird one. During the race, there was a call that he possibly cut the pit entry line at a certain point, and this was funny because usually this is a slam dunker of one, but the stewards decide to wait until after the race to do it. Apparently, the justification for this being that they didn't have access to certain possibly mitigating camera angles. So I'm thinking probably from within the car is what I'm imagining. However, it didn't make a difference in the end. The driver of car 3 explained that he was driving out of the pit exit and rejoin the race under full course yellow. The stewards determined that the outside of the front left tire did cross the outside of the solid white pit exit line in violation of Appendix L, Chapter 4, Article 6C of the International Sporting Code. Given the nature of the infraction, the stewards elected to impose a penalty of 5 seconds, which does absolutely nothing to his final position, because Leclerc had already gotten the penalty himself, which pushed him down, and Lewis Hamilton was 10 seconds behind Max when they finished the race. So it doesn't make a difference. We end the race with Andrea, not Antonio, Kimi Antonelli, once again winning a race. Incredible. First position. Lando Norris in second, Oscar Piastri third. All in all, solid weekend for the McLarens. They've enjoyed the break. George Russell gets fourth. Not really representative of his race, it's fair to say, but that's where he ends up. Max Verstappen in fifth. Arguably not representative of his race. You know, I think that car, or the power of that car, I think that car is going to... I think the Red Bulls are in effect here. Obviously not great for his teammate, but, you know, Max did spin at the start of the race and spent most of the time on a weird tire strategy fighting back, and he ends up in fifth, so not terrible. Lewis Hamilton in sixth, saved somewhat from the Shaw penalty. Franco Colapinto seventh, much to the delight of lots of Argentines, as Rob said. Charles Leclerc eighth, then Carlos Sainz in ninth, and Alex Albon in 10th. Williams, out of nowhere, pulling points out of thin air after arguably...
After a weekend that started shittily.
It really did. Yeah.
Carlos was like unloading on the team, like on the radio. Yes. It seemed the vibes were bad. The
vibes were bad. So I don't know if that says more about everyone else, or maybe they had good tire strategy. I'm not quite sure. They were the only ones to end within that lap. We have 11th, Ollie Behrman, 12th, Gabriel Bortoleto, 13th, Esteban Ocon, Arvid Lindblad coming home in 14th, never saw him in the race. Fernando Alonso 15th, Sergio Perez 16th, Lance Stroll 17th, Valtteri Bottas 18th, and we have DNFs from Nico Hulkenberg, Liam Lawson, Pierre Gasly, and Isaac Hadjar.
Well, those last 3 DNFs are like, that's why the Williams points are a mirage, right? Like those are 3 points finishing cars that got knocked out. So yeah, it's, again, Aston Martin is battling with Cadillac, which is a brand new team. That is not where you want to be for a program at this stage.
Let's have a look at the standings then, folks, where we lie as we take another little week break before we head off to beautiful Canada for Circuit Gilles Villeneuve. Kimi Antonelli, top of the points paying positions, top of the driver standings with a clean 100 points. George Russell 20 behind him in second with 80. Charles Leclerc in third with 59. Lando now in fourth with 51. Tied with Lewis Hamilton in fifth. In fourth. Then we have Oscar Piastri sixth with 43, Max Verstappen seventh with 26, Ollie Behrman in eighth with 17, Pierre Gasly in ninth with 16, Liam Lawson in 10th with 10, Franco Colapinto then in 11th with 7. Then we have Arvid Lindblad, Isaac Hadjar, and Carlos Sainz all on 4 points. 15th position, Gabby Bortoleto with 2. Esteban Ocon and Albon have a point apiece in 16th. Nico Hulkenberg, Valtteri Bottas, Sergio Perez, and our beautiful Aston Martin boys, Alonso and Stroll, have goose eggs. As for the teams, Mercedes definitely charging down that Constructors' Championships with 180 points. Ferrari in second with 110. McLaren in third with 94. Then we have a big old gap down to Red Bull Racing in fourth with 30. Alpine in fifth with 23. Haas F1 team in sixth with 18. Racing Bulls in seventh with 14. Williams in eighth with 5th. Audi in ninth with 2. Cadillac in 10th, technically, with Aston Martin picking up the last spot. Neither of those have any points. What's the point? Poor Lance. Poor Fernando, my beautiful boy. When will he retire? Seems to be a glutton for punishment, this boy.
Well, we'll see if the kid changes anything.
Oh, God, is he having a kid? I forgot.
Sorry, you were talking about Alonso, right?
Alonso, yeah.
Yeah, he just had the kid.
He had the kid? I forgot about that.
Yeah, during Suzuka.
Wow. Well, he didn't have the kid, presumably.
No, but
someone had a kid for him.
Yeah.
Someone.
With him.
With
whatever.
Him. Yeah. So when He's going to be an intense dad. He is definitely going to throw that kid into a go-kart like 3 months.
I could see it. Who knows with these guys, right? I could see him doing like the medieval like king thing of like, you raise this child, someone like take this child
That's
away,
very true.
present it to me when the child is like 14.
Yes.
I could also see him being like, don't even try to do what I did, F1. Like, don't. I don't want to be one of those guys where racing will just take from you. But for the most part, they all seem to push their kids toward the sport. You grow up around it. At Formula 2, there was Emo's kid, there was Montoya's kid. Montoya's vast reserves of cynicism about motorsport didn't discourage the kid from showing up.
That's a good point. I'm trying to hunt down the fantasy stuff here. I forgot to do that before we do this.
Oh, you didn't do your login? So the last thing I'll say about the experience is I was struck by how much it did affect me before the race, the startup on the grid. Remember how the movie Grand Prix, Frankenheimer's Grand Prix, opens with just like all the engines firing and doing the whole like the tiled, like all the different like cuts of different cars like firing up and starting? That is how the start of a race weekend or the start of a race feels, is like hearing all those things like roaring to life asynchronously, spinning up to, the red line and then spinning back down. It is like, as frustrated as I was by like parts of the trip and did not really like the way the Miami GP operates in a lot of particulars, being there as all that sort of like fired to life was like, oh wow, this is just like pure adrenaline now. Like, wow. I could run through a wall.
I have had to, you did a great job of padding for me there. I realized that I can't even see the league because I hadn't made my team yet. So I just made my team quickly. I'm typing in the team name. Danny filled this in so he could see the league. Do you think? So he could not. Danny filled this in. I'm just going to say. I'm going to call it. Great. Now I have to pick what country I'm from. I'm from American Samoa. Yeah, there you go. Okay, just please let me into the fucking league. I'll get it here. I did this last year. I felt good about it, but I've decided not to. I'm too late anyway to get in here. So. Okay, here we go. Let's go to the Shift F1 Podcast Fantasy League. You can join it with the link in the show notes. The Miami Grand Prix, our top winners are in, let's do 5th place. I think this is the GP. Yes, that looks right. Chase is on the case in 4th. Formula 4 Success in 2nd. Joint 2nd, actually. MK Ultra and Slings and Silver Arrows, the winner this week, with 487 points. It's Bridge on the River C5. Our overall winners at the moment. Do you know what that reference is? I don't.
Bridge on the River Kwai is what that feels like.
Oh, of course.
It's like kind of a stretch.
Yeah. C5. Kwai. Yeah, I see what you're saying. Maybe they're Australian. It's like Kwai, C5. You know what I mean? It's close. Our top 3 at the moment, though. The Macarena in 3rd position. Dropped down, actually. MK Ultra now in 2nd. And Cigarettes are winning the Shift F1 Podcast Fantasy League at the moment. If you want to send us emails, we'll do emails next week. We're doing a pre-race for Canada. shiftf1podcast@gmail.com or f1.cool/emails. You can follow us at Shift F1 Podcast on Blue Sky. And it is time to go around the world. Rob, can you give me a little holler there?
Yeah. It's time to race around the world.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Love it. There we go. We got some racing this weekend. The World Endurance Championship is at Spa-Francorchamps. The race is at 8 a.m. on May 9th, which is Saturday, I believe, actually. Yep, that makes sense for WEC. 8 o'clock Eastern. MotoGP is at the Bugatti circuit on Sunday, May 10th, 8 a.m. Eastern again, the race there. Indy next is at Indianapolis all this weekend. They got 2 races going on a couple of weeks before the, 110th? I don't know what racing of the Indy 500, which is on, I believe, the 24th of this month, a couple of weeks away. And NASCAR is at Watkins Glen International for Go Bowling at the Glen. Sunday, May 10th, 3 p.m. Eastern. That's noon Pacific, and it feels real good. So plenty of racing this weekend if you are if you are so inclined. But yeah, also great time to listen to our Formula 2 preseason primer over on the Patreon stuff and watch a bunch of F2 races because, as Rob said, it's been a fun all week. We tackled, there wasn't that much news. We were scrambling for the past couple of days, and really it was those 2 penalties ended up being sort of the big ones. And then a lot of the news this week is primarily where the cars are now. So, just briefly, Rob, where do you think the cars are? Like, who do you think the winners and losers have been from the break we had? It's hard to tell. Data set of one, street race. Yeah. Some people crashed. It's a bit, funny, the specter of rain. But what was your feeling?
I mean, like we sort of suspected, this has been a disaster for Mercedes in terms of letting the other field draw closer. Yeah. They had it felt like, not quite to the extent we had an advantage at the start of the turbo hybrid era, but similar, like big gap between them and the rest of the teams. And that has been allowed to be closed considerably. And so I think, there's a real good chance that McLaren is not out of this by any stretch of the imagination. Certainly for constructors. Like Kimi might be the most hooked up with his car of any driver, but in terms of the overall, like what the teams are fielding, McLaren seems to have drawn closer. And Verstappen looks like he is coming to grips with the rule set and the car. So I think they are probably the big losers. Ferrari had so much misfortune this weekend. I'm struggling to assess it.
Yeah.
And then, I think there was a lot of talk. Cadillac, I think, was saying a lot of things about like all the upgrades they're bringing and such. And I can't view that as too much of a disappointing because you're a new team. Like, I just don't think you can really expect them to close up the gap that stiffly.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I think Ferrari, you're right. The especially in the race, Lewis got held up a good bit. A couple of incidents. Obviously, the pit stops didn't help as well. But I'm interested. I hope that the cars, like you said, the excitement we have from those first couple of races is more demonstrative at Gilles Villeneuve, which is a track with, when I think about the back straight, Wall of Champions front straight, start finish straight, you have a lot of different places there where you can have that back and forth. And then there are some high speed parts of this track where they like to follow, especially into that final hairpin. Well, not really hairpin, that final hard braking zone at the end of sector 2 at the back of the track. So yeah, we'll have to wait and see. And I'm going to read out of this book. May 5th we're going to go with, even though it is technically, we're recording this on May 6th. May the 4th be with you, by the way, Rob. Do you like Star Wars? I'm not a big Star Wars guy.
Oh, yeah. I like Star Wars a little bit.
You like Star Wars? Yeah. I don't dislike cool. Star Wars, but I'm just
Star Wars is cool.
Yeah, Star Wars.
I'm always happy to talk about it.
I'm more of a Dune guy, I guess, which is not something you should say if you've not read Dune. I can't be a Dune guy.
You can't be like I'm a
like
Dune guy and
Sting.
then you haven't read the novels. Then no, you can't be a Dune guy.
I can't be. I like Sting in that movie. I like the new ones.
So you like the Lynch Dune.
But mostly my Dune love comes from an old role playing game or a real time strategy.
Oh well, yeah, Dune 2, yeah, of course. No, great game. And then when they made that really good FMV one, like in 2000.
Oh God!
Westwood went full like FMV.
Right.
Like
what was it called?
I can't remember. It was excellent.
Have you played the new one? I like it. The crafty.
The little RTS one.
No, it's like a
the crafting, yeah. So
game.
I fired it up on the day it launched,
it's cool.
And then it kept crashing like crazy, and so I need to go back to it. It looked gorgeous too.
Yeah, the community's kind of turned on it because I think it's a lot of this stuff where like the late game stuff people don't, there's not enough to do, and they kind of messed with a couple of little things. Dune Awakening, I like the vibe. It had a whole mechanic about like water. You know what I mean? Which I felt like was very, and like being in the sun, like you had to, like it was basically like being at the Miami Grand Prix. You were just fighting for shadow the whole time. Anyway, May 5th, Thomas Scheckter, son of 1979 world champion Jody, was in a spot of bother on this day in 2001 when he was sacked from his job as test driver for the Jaguar team after he was caught curb crawling in Milton Keynes. So he went curb crawling. I don't really know what that is, but I'm guessing it means getting drunk.
Oh yeah, okay.
Is it, or does it mean picking up sex workers?
Dude, I've never heard of that.
Curb crawling.
That feels like you're puking in the gutter.
It does. but I don't know. It could be like a, dogging doesn't sound like what it is, but oh yeah, that's what it was. I was right. The action or practice of slowly driving slowly along the edge of a road in search of a sex worker.
Okay.
There you go. Curb crawling. There's a new word for you, folks. Or maybe it's not new for you. In 2002, the Prost team was dying a slow death, with deaths forcing the owner, Alain Prost, to wind up the team. On this day that year, 12 of the Prost team cars were sold at auction at the Palais des Congrès in Paris. The sale raised just $900,000. Ooh. Grim stuff. Rob, what else is there to say about your time in Miami? Do you have any other final thoughts on going to the race? You said the F2 race and possibly the race itself, saved your weekend. I know it was a big trip for you guys. Obviously, it's a privilege to attend a Formula One race, and I'm sure you were enjoying that. But yeah, from a consumer perspective, because this is always the arithmetic when you're talking about going to Formula One races. Obviously, you were able to, you had somebody with the tickets, and that worked out well. But you still had to fly there, you still had to get hotels, you still had to pay $50 for nachos or whatever it was. How did you find it?
I'm really glad I went, and here's how they get you. You're immediately like, oh, now that I know more, I would do such and such differently, and I have a better time next year. And that's true up to a point. I think where it gets really tricky is that, like, for one thing, it is so clear that to an extent, they don't care about general admission people at all. Like you are, which is kind of wild because these are $1,000 seats that people are walking around in, and they just don't care. And that's just reflective of a broader, this broader situation with the economy writ large, which is that everything now is about luxury consumer spending. That middle class is not a significant market. Nobody cares. It is about just targeting the people for whom there is vast sums of disposable income. And you can feel that, right? And it extends to little things like I went to the Hendrick's Gin garden party thing. They had a little booth. And I heard people in the line talking about how last year it was a gorgeous 3-story open air bar that they had there on the campus. And that was condensed down to the size of a really big living room out there in the sun. And meanwhile, all the luxury seating accommodations have been expanded. And I think what they are doing is everywhere you look, it's well, if you wanted to have an actually good time, you'd be in here with the box seat prices, which I didn't even know how much they are. And I think that's where it starts to rub me a little bit wrong, where, wait, so if I just go with the general admissions tickets, it's kind of go screw yourself. We don't really care if you have a nice time at all. But that makes me less inclined to feel I really want to buy up and have the better experience. Because at that point, you're kind of or I could go literally anywhere else and do anything else for that money and just feel much less all the friction of the event is being borne by me.
Yeah, there's nothing worse than spending a lot of money and feeling like you're in a cheap situation. If you anytime I have had to, because of an emergency, buy a last minute flight back to Ireland, and you're just in economy, but it costs so much because you had to buy it last minute for whatever reason. You're just oh fuck, it feels worse. Whereas if I booked that months in advance, I'd feel great about, fine, it's same seat.
Yeah, it's fair. It's not much of a seat, but I didn't pay much. And instead it's well, I dropped $2,000 on this, and I'm having an experience. The walking around the campus feels like you're at a really underwhelming state fair. That is and that extends to the F1 pop-up shops are not particularly.
Oh, did you get any merch?
No, but there are a bunch of tiny little trailers that they just have the official F1 gear in.
Right.
You're cheek to jowl. There's nowhere to go actually stand off and look at some of the stuff or try it on. You're just jammed in there. So at every turn you're it's not a fun campus experience really. And it's so clearly engineered to say This event is for the people dropping $5,000-$10,000 ahead on the box seats, and we will literally cut lines of sight and block you out of increasing space on the track to make room for those seats, and y'all can just deal with it. And at a certain point, I don't know.
I bet Miami is also probably one of the worst offenders for this. Just, given the, I'm not even just saying like, don't at me, Florida fan. I think the nature of a street track as well is that there's just less. You can rebuild that infrastructure every year, so you can make changes every year that do that. You can't do that at Silverstone. You can't do, a lot of these places also, like Silverstone, for instance, have a history of fans going, have a festival atmosphere, whereas this is not going to have that. It's a new track. It's in the middle of a city.
And yeah, it is. They can sort of bring anything in, and they'll bring it in for the box seats. But like for basic, again, like chilling water, so people don't get heat stroke. We're not going to do that, which is wildly.
If I had a kid, I would have been really panicking with that stuff. That's, you know what I mean,
dude. I felt like, I was walking back one day, and like there was a toddler who just was overwhelmed, and I was like, yeah, dude, you can't get out of the heat. Your little kid can't get out of the heat, and short of buying again. Just to exist on those hot days, I was spending, I think, my wife and I think we were spending like $20 every 15 minutes to get water, like chilled water, and just like stay out there because it was just you're burning through it. And weirdly, you don't have to go to the bathroom because you are just like it hits your system and you're sweating it out immediately. Wow. So you have that. I probably wouldn't go again. I'd probably try like a different code as a better experience. And then with a proper city track, you're in a city, and if you get away from the track, you can go like link into the transit infrastructure or just go do a thing. You can't do that here because you're again in a parking lot. Honestly, like the nicest thing I did all weekend was on the second day after my time at the track. MK was like, "I'm not going back until Sunday," but she damn near like rage quit on the entire weekend. She spent all of Saturday at the Hurrim Hammam Turkish spa on Biscayne Boulevard, and now that was like. There I dropped like a few $100s, and it was like 5,000 square feet of like private bathhouse space. Yeah. It was ridiculous. And I was like, okay, now this is luxury.
Because all the wealthy people were at the fucking race, probably.
Yeah. And so you're just like sitting there like, I am in a huge hot tub by myself. This is awesome.
This is the opposite.
Now, did it feel like a mob front? Little bit. Did it feel like Turkish Shenyun, but for a bathhouse? It did. Everywhere you turn, it's like, let us tell you about the awesome cultural legacy of the noble Ottomans.
Yes, absolutely.
And I was like, fuck yeah. Tell me all about it. And they're like, the Ottomans perfected the art of bathing. And I was like, damn right they did. As I'm like lying on a huge heated marble slab. But that was like... That probably also saved the weekend, because if like MK had not been able to stitch herself back together with like a spa day, I don't think she makes it out to the race on Sunday.
Man, oh man. Well, thank you very much for reporting from the field, Rob Zachney. It's been a little while since we've had one of us actually attend a race. I am very interested in going to Canada next year. I think that's going to be on my
loop me in on that, because I might go in on that. And here's the other thing: I was pricing like, what are other racing experiences like? Go to the 6 Hours of the Glen. They sell one ticket there. General admission, $136.
Yeah. That's why I do NASCAR at Sonoma. Yeah, dude, I fucking camped there for like, was it less than $500? I got to camp at the track, with my ticket for all three of us and it's, it's not that busy. And it was also hot, but I have a trailer. I have a little camper trailer that we can, it was dry camping, so there was no like hookups for, this, that, and the other. But we could survive. So yeah. I'm totally with you. Like I'm going down, Petaluma Raceway. I paid $20 or whatever in the door, and I have a great time. You know what I mean? So yeah, it's all different. Anyway, other racing is available, folks, and we encourage you to check out, especially local races. Support your local racetracks and support your local race meetups. All right, that's a podcast, folks. If you'd like to support the show and get access to all of our bonus episodes, the early ad-free version of the podcast, which won't be very early this time because we are coming in a bit late, and the official Shift F1 Discord, you can do so over patreon.com/ShiftF1. Have a great weekend, folks. We will see you all next week.
Subscribe to our Patreon. I have no money. I spent it all on Aquafina.